welcome to the channel. I am Summer. Today we're taking inspiration from these cuts for our mannequin today. I love this look as you get lots of shape and movement, and more importantly than cutting today, I am going to be showing you all easy ways you can style this cut on your own at home to make sure that your layers are always popping. I break down 2 easy ways you can do it, so let's get started. All right, so we are just gonna hop right in. I've got her sectioned off already with the classic right down the ear on both sides to separate the front from the back. And we're gonna be removing some length here, taking it right to the shoulders so it matches more of our inspirational haircut. So I'm gonna first remove her length, and then I'm gonna get right into some of these layers for you guys. And then I'm using my shark fin. These are swivel thumb shear. I will leave them linked below. So because this cut, I wanna really focus on a lot of styling options for you guys, so that way you can really see how to get your layers to have the movement that you want. I'm not gonna spend quite as much time as I typically would on cutting, just so I can really focus on the styling aspect. I will link 2 videos below in the description of cuts I've done very similar to this that you can check out. One is a middle part, one is a side part, so you guys can get a great idea and have a little bit more in depth to this haircut. And then that way it frees up my time to really focus on the styling for you guys. All right, and now we're just gonna move into cutting our sides first, and then I'll resection off to start my layers, but I just wanna get rid of this length so it'll be easier when I go to shape the layers. And then always just make sure to take small enough sections that you can always see through to your guide. Okay, and then now that you have cut your perimeter, you can go ahead and check your sides now to make sure they're lining up. So what I would do is stand in front of the client, pull them to the center, make sure that that lines up, and then you can opt to tweak now if you want. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut her layers first, and then I'll check it before I really shape the layers in the front. So then what you would do is just go right back to your original parting you had to separate the front from the back on both sides, and then you'll start your back layers. All right, so now that we have our perimeter cut, we're gonna come in here and start creating our layers. I did like very long layers on this mannequin a few cuts ago. I'll be linking a lot of haircuts for you guys below in the description. But I'm gonna be doing traditional round layers to create this haircut. They're just a very classic way to do layers. You can create a lot of shape and movement. And then I also gonna be doing a little bit of razor work just to soften it up, because I feel like a lot of like that Rachel look has a little bit of flippiness to it, but I'm gonna do it just kind of slightly just so you maintain a little bit more thickness. So we've got our center part here to start our guide. And we're just gonna come in. I like to use the fine side of my comb, and I'm gonna comb straight out, and I let that first perimeter piece fall, and then I'm just gonna cut into my layers. And I'm gonna continue to do that all throughout this back section, and I'm gonna be rounding with the head as I create my layers. So again, you come straight out, you would let that piece fall, and then cut. So we're now gonna split our original layer in half. Take from our next section and cut. And we're just gonna continue that all through this back. And then I want to remind you guys, as you are creating your layers, you want to make sure that each new section you go into is the same size as your previous section. That's going to help you keep nice, even layers. And then I will go to check the hair by bringing everything straight up with my top layer and just even out where it needs. Looks good. Now that we're in the sides, I'm gonna let both sides down. And I like to over direct the sides a little bit back towards me. This just helps preserve a little bit extra weight through the sides just because they tend to be naturally a little bit more thin on people. So we're gonna come in, I've directed this hair back slightly and take from my previous layers here. Her head keeps bobbling. And I'm gonna be combing back towards me. So I'll comb back, I twist while letting this perimeter fall here so I maintain this weight and cut. And then we'll come up, twisting back, let your section fall, cut. And you'll just continue to do that through to the front, and I always leave out a little section here for my face frame to wait and cut after the fact. And then again, I will link in the description below those two haircuts I mentioned before that are very similar to this if you want a more in-depth tutorial on how I'm creating the layers. Like I said, I want to be able to focus more on styling for you guys today. All right, and then I'm going to leave out this because we're going to be creating more of a face frame and side bang, and we're going to come to the other side and do our layers over here. And now we're just gonna come straight across the top for these top layers to check them. I'm coming right at the center of her part. And then just connect if they need it. A little bit right in here. Okay, so now that we have all of our layers done, we're gonna come in and do our side bang face frame. I'm gonna spritz her down really quick. Okay, so we're gonna be doing a nice swoopy bang. It's pretty long right now. It's like all the way down to the chin. So I'm gonna be bringing it up midway, right about that cheek area. Long enough you can clip it back, but not too long that it's gonna be weighed down. You'll be able to get a nice swoop. So I'm gonna take my first little section here. Let it rest. I'm not pulling too tight. I'm combing with the wide side of my comb. I'm coming right kind of at her nose at an angle here and just combing, cutting right down into that. I'm gonna check that one more time and just glide. So now I'll just follow that through to the rest to create the rest of our face frame and then match it up on the other side, and then we will get into the styling portion. Okay, so now that we have all of our haircut done, I'm actually gonna razor it just a tiny, tiny bit, not a lot. This mannequin doesn't really need it. She doesn't have as much bulk as my other ones, and I'm just gonna mostly focus it on her top layers, not the perimeter. She won't stay even. So I've got my razor and I'm just coming in right at that top just to soften it up, because this part is usually where it's pretty bulky. And I'm just gonna lightly skim, very softly. And work my way into like the crown area. All right, so now that I have all the layers done, we're gonna get into the styling part. And a lot of this haircut, people love it for all its like shape and movement with the layers. But you can have this haircut with all the layers that we just cut and it look actually completely flat and lifeless. It's a lot of how you style it. So products are first and foremost what you need to start with to get the look that you want. We're going to be using a volume mousse from Amika to create our volume to get it nice and full. And then we're also going to be using Kenra's Perfect Blowout. This is a light hold styling cream. So it's gonna help keep your hair holding that bounce and bend with the shape that you create with your blow dry. If you have really fine hair that's like super stick straight like mine, I use a little bit stronger of a gel that I'll leave linked below from Moroccan-Oil. So you wanna give the can a good shake. You wanna do anywhere from 2 to 4 balls of mousse, and you're gonna work that all through your hair. One thing I like about this mousse is it's pretty light in feel, so you don't get like that sticky mousse feel that I think a lot of people hate when it comes to a volume mousse. And so those two covered her hair good, and I'm just gonna do one small third one. Focus that on that bang area. And then now I'm going to apply the Kenra cream. And you don't need a lot of this. I start out with a little bit, literally that much at first. And I use just the tips of my fingers and start working it through the hair. And then I'll get another amount and work it more along the top. And then once you have all your products in, you want to take your wet brush and you're just going to brush everything through. And what this does is it allows for the products to spread completely evenly through the hair. So I'm going to be showing you multiple ways you can style this hair. The first step you need to do is definitely you're going to want to rough dry the hair. This is going to allow you to get the moisture out of the hair and start creating that volume that you want to see by lifting the hair with your hands. You always want to make sure that your concentrator nozzle is on. But because I understand that most people aren't going to be able to work a round brush quite the same as somebody would in salon, I'm going to be showing you how you can achieve it without a round brush with 2 ways that you can do that. You typically would want to rough dry the hair no more than 2 to 3 minutes. So once you have the hair rough dried, what I like to do is come back in and brush it. And you still want to take like quite a large round brush to just kind of soften it up. So this is especially key if you're somebody with like frizzy or wavy hair. You need to get it smoother at first, and then you can always go back in to create more of that bounce and shape. So I'm just going to use a large round brush, section her off really quick. get all this dry, and then I'm gonna come in and show you how you can use the other two options that are super easy to use at home to get that more bouncy look. All right, so we've got her blown out, and I blew her out pretty smooth. So it's definitely shorter. We've got our layers, but you don't really see them as defined because I smoothed them out. So if you were somebody who wanted like all this movement with the layers, you have to create that with your styling. Because as you can see here, with just like a big round brush, I mean, they're there, don't get me wrong, but you don't see like that bounce that you guys typically see when I blow out my layers. So I'm gonna show you two ways of how you can create these layers. The first could be is if you had a small or at least a round brush, blowout brush. Most of them are oval shape. In certain hair types you can get like really nice bend. But if you have shorter layers like this, a round brush head is going to be much better because you're gonna be able to really curve and wrap this around and work it to get the swoop. So what you could opt to do is you could get it dry, or you could damp some of your top pieces because you may not want it everywhere. It's mostly in the top and like midsections that you want to see that bend. So you could always opt to just do like the bigger round brush or rough dry this bottom part and then come in here with a round blow dry brush to perfect it. So I'm gonna spritz down a couple sections so I can show you guys just how easy this is to really get the bend and the bounce. So as you can see here, it's just really smooth looking. There's plenty of shape, but you don't have that like defined layer. So I'm gonna spritz it down. It doesn't have to be soaking wet, just enough that you're able to get some shape, because basically you want the hair to be damp enough so that way the heat and the shape of whatever your tool you're using when you're drying it allows your hair to work into the shape that you want. All right, so I've got this damp. It's not like soaking wet, but there's enough moisture here in the hair. I'll spritz it just a little bit. Smooth it out. You can use your brush, comb, or the actual tool. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna literally run this through like you would a round brush, or just wrap the hair around it. So you wanna smooth it out whole and wrap the hair. And then what I like to do, you can either switch to a cool setting, or I will hold it in its place and I'll just sort of glide it to let it cool down as I let it out. And look at the bend. Look how much more fluffy and more of a curve you have there. So I'm not gonna touch it too much because it's gonna fall flat, and then I would come in and do my next section. So again, we're gonna grab our piece. You're gonna place the brush, you're gonna glide it through once to smooth it out, glide it through again, and you're gonna roll into that, let that heat sit as it dries. You can use your hand like I was doing before, and then you can also just keep repeating the process. And I will opt to just run the brush through a little bit at the end with it turned off, and then slowly let it out, and you've automatically got that nice swoop at the end. So I'm gonna finish doing that on this side of the head to show you guys more movement. And then one thing, when you're at the front of your face, I like to blow away from the face. So the Hair is gonna be on the outside and you're gonna be wrapping away from the face. So before I finish this top piece, I'm gonna show you our other option. You're gonna be using a curling iron. And what's nice about this is the hair, you don't have to redamp it. You definitely do not want to redamp it using a curling iron, but you can come in and get that bouncy look. It's great for actually when you're touching up the hair, like for second day or third day before you wash again. So you can see we've got layers here, but they're not quite swooping. So what you would do is you would use your curling iron, almost like you would use your flat iron. So you'd come in, grab your piece of hair, you're gonna put it in your clamp, let it down, and you're just gonna slowly glide the iron out while twisting to start getting that shape. And what's nice about this is you can practice really with both these tools, whether you use a blowout brush or a curling iron. You can practice it with the heat turned off so you can get used to the motion. So you're gonna grab your hair once your iron has heated up. I think I've got her hot enough. And you're gonna come in, place the hair in the clamp, and you're just gonna slowly glide out like you would a flat iron almost. And you start getting that shape. Don't touch it as you keep moving through the head. You wanna let it cool, so grab your piece of hair. We're putting it in the clamp. You can go high up if you want to. You don't have to start at the bottom. You can go as high as you want. Put it in, and then slowly glide your hair out of your iron. And it just creates this really nice, fluffy shape. Coming in, clamp, and you want to slowly put pressure on the clamp as you glide the hair out. You don't want to just leave it closed, just barely open it up. And look at that shape. So I'm gonna do both sides of the hair, one with the brush, one with the curling iron, so that way at the end you guys can tell me which one you prefer. So I will get her finished up and then we'll get you guys out of here. All right, here we have our finished look. We have got a lot more bend to our layers now using either of those tools. This side we use the round hot air brush, so you can really add the shape and body for your hair. You can see how much more movement it gives to the hair, and a hot air brush can be used on both wet and dry hair, and you specifically want to use a round one for this. Here on the other side, we used our curling iron to give us our bend. Still has plenty of shape and movement to into it, really bringing out the layers. A curling iron must always be used on dry hair and is great for reshaping on day 2 or 3 post blow dry. I hope you all enjoyed today's tutorial, and if you want to see this same cut more in depth, be sure to check out either of these videos right here, as you'll get much more knowledge on how to achieve this cut either in salon or on your own at home. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.